Greetings everyone, welcome back to my sketchbook. I'm just going to open up this inkwell. Every day I'm surrounded by art, and some of my favorite stuff that I know that someone put great effort into. And this was done by one of my nephews probably 8 or 9 years ago. And it's awesome. It's something that I keep on my fridge, and it just reminds me of a really fun sort of day that we had drawing pictures. I also have this, which is a Grumobile, and obviously that's a picture of a Minion. So I thought I'd take a little bit of time here with pen and paper and maybe doodle out a concept which I'm sure exists somewhere on the internet. I'm not going to look it up. I have my own imagination, so let's see what we can do. The idea that I have in my head, and I'm going to zoom in on this a little bit, is, well, an X-ray of sorts of a Minion. And I'm certain that exists already, but just using what little knowledge I have of anatomy, I want to know if I can kind of come up with something for the skull of a Minion. Now, this Minion is going to have one eye rather than two, and I don't know them all by name perfectly. I know that one of them is Stuart, of the one-eyed ones. So I'm going to see if I can come up with something for Stuart. See how it goes. One of the things that kind of pops into my head with Minions in general is that I think they're either immortal, or it's quite possible that they're kind of like a physical manifestation of sorts of evil. I don't really think that they were meant to be good characters. Does that make sense? Maybe I'm wrong. Another idea that I had kind of floating around in my head about Minions is that, is it possible that they, along with other fallen angels, they would have been possibly the cherubim version of a fallen angel? I don't know. So I don't really know why or how I've arrived at that. I've watched one of the Minion movies where they kind of look at them through time over thousands of years, where they're looking for a boss, because their whole purpose is to be in service to somebody, and they're looking for somebody who's suitably evil. So I don't know, just concept wise it seems strange that they exist that way. And then eventually they find Gru to be their big boss. Anyway, I don't know how many teeth these things are supposed to have in their heads either, so I'm just playing around with this. Now, I don't believe they have nostrils. I don't believe they have ears. So I don't have one here. I have to, oddly enough, I have to assume that they're mouth breathers. They can take considerable amounts of pain, sadly. They're good for experimenting on and getting tasks done. I don't know. They kind of creep me out a little bit too. But they're really funny. And if you watch the movies, they're constantly doing things in the background to each other, or just in general, kind of doing weird little things in the backgrounds of the movies. So I don't know. they're mischievous, and I feel like, the way I'm talking right now is like if you watch one of those, what do they call them now? Home shopping network people, where they're just rambling on. Well, I apologize if I'm just kind of rambling on. I'll try to keep some sort of awareness of that. I've drawn a lot of skulls over the years. I don't think I've tried to draw a Cyclops version of one before, especially that of a Minion, for this kind of X-ray look at a Minion, a one-eyed Minion's head. The brow here, I'm not really sure what to do with that. Do they have eyebrows? They're kind of hidden behind glasses generally, aren't they? Anyway, so this I'm treating like the temples on either side. Cheekbone wise, I don't know how much cheekbone to expect out of this creature. We'll figure out the mandible here. The jaw. We'll give him kind of a Kirk Douglas jaw. Kind of that famous, as some might call it, a bum chin. A bit of a cleft there. Like that. We'll work on the jaw just slightly. So as I said, this could already exist. I'm fine with that. I'm not looking it up to reference somebody else's thing. I'll be fine on my own. You might hear me say this more than twice, but it's hard to come up with an original idea. Somebody might have already thought of something. Kind of like when you think of the Wright brothers and the airplane. More than just those guys thought about flight. And I'm sure that long before those guys were famous for getting off the ground, somebody else already did. But they weren't filming. They didn't have investors that ran to patent offices and all that kind of stuff that's usually involved in saying that you're the first at something. Chances are somebody could have already done it. So right now I'm trying to separate the teeth just slightly from the rest of the mouth, because I want them to be a bit more obvious, because yes, it's kind of a silly drawing anyway. Okay, now what do we expect out of the skull? The rest of the skull. It would be shorter, taller. Let's go for this kind of a height here. But I'm going to put a little dent here. Although secretly I think they can recover quite nicely from any little contusions and whatnot. As I said, I think they're in some ways immortal. And in the very least, maybe they're like aliens. What are those little like creatures in Toy Story that live inside the claw machine or whatever? Like maybe these minions are kind of like aliens as well. I don't know. Um, no. Well, that's kind of interesting. So this would be where the optic nerve would go, back here. We're going to add a little bit of like depth by making it slightly darker back there. And then a little bit of darkness around here. So that's the main thing, I think, right there. All right, well, hopefully that's not too spooky. Just thinking of other parts that I might be able to put. Well, they do have unusual kind of arms too, and shoulders, because they almost don't really have like an elbow. It's a weird thing that I'm kind of struggling with at the moment. Well, we might as well give the overalls. And see, I don't always know what's going on with some of these creatures. I know that if you go to Universal Studios in Florida, you can go for an adventure, sort of like movie ride experience, I guess. Not that I guess, I mean, I know. Where you can um, get turned into a minion. And also as a bonus, which you might see in the, what do they call that now? A thumbnail. You're going to see a fart gun, which is also from the world of Minions. It's pretty funny. I just don't have it in front of me. It's actually on a shelf. And seems like a lot of my doodles end up with a creature waving. Now, do they have 3 fingers or 2 fingers here? I don't remember right off. I'm going to go with 3 just because. So those be part of the hand. Bow just slightly. And then these would be the actual phalanges, the fingers. As I said, I don't remember if they have. Oh well, doesn't matter that much. Got the radial bone and the ulna. And I'm going to, I'm going to let the whole arm kind of be a little bit more flexible here. Just like that. And what we'll do here, make sure that there's kind of some ribs showing here, but at the same time, doesn't have to be too much further than that. Up here with the sternum and a collarbone that would make its way out towards the arms. A little bit of the shoulder blade back here. We'll drift in some shade. And up here, we're going to write in Now, I don't really remember how to spell his name. There's a few different ways to spell Stuart. But I'm going to go for this one. This is different than the one that I would naturally use. I think that's silly enough. An X-ray of Stuart. Of course, they talk a little bit like that. Battle! Okay. Well, that's probably good enough for now. Keeping the video under 25 minutes. Neville the cat didn't scream at me. He just kind of walked by and made a face at me and went on about his day. So, not typical at all. Let's see if we can back this out just a little bit. Yeah, well, there you go. I'll darken this in just a little bit here, and then be done with it. I think that's it. Well, thanks for hanging out for a minute or so, and yeah, let me know what you think of the minions, what your opinion is on them, if they are indeed immortal, and where they came from. And I think that's pretty much it. I hope you have a wonderful day. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you again at some point in the near future.